Hello and good morning. This week we started reading the portion of scriptures from the New Testament, from the Gospels, where we will get to see the first-hand account, eyewitness account of the story of Good Friday, the crucifixion of Christ, and the events preceding the crucifixion of Christ. So here we go in Matthew 26. This is a disciple of Christ who walked around with Jesus. He was present in those scenes, at least around those places. And he's writing the story. Last reading we saw Jesus got arrested late night before Good Friday, the evening before Good Friday, at a garden in Jerusalem on the Mount Olivet, the Garden of Gethsemane. His trusted friend Judas betrayed him with a kiss, and the temple guard authorities arrested him. Jesus stopped his disciples from retaliating, and he had already started talking to his disciples about his upcoming death and the resurrection. So here we go in the story in Matthew chapter 26. Verse 57. This is early morning of Good Friday, and possibly it would be 5 a.m. This is the temple court. This is 70 members of the Sanhedrin, the religious authority of Israel at that time. And there had to be some amount of premeditation, pre-planning for such a elite court to gather such an early morning with an urgent need. So then those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. And Peter, we know he is one of his disciples, was following him at a distance as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. So Peter was interested in watching what's going to happen. Now the chief priest and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Jesus, that they might put him to death. That's interesting, because how can you accuse a person who is healing people, who is expressing compassion for people, who is stopping the storms, who is giving eyesight to the blind? What accusation you might find against a man like that? So they were seeking a false testimony so that they can put him to death, but they found none, except, even though many false witnesses came forward, at last two came forward and said, "This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to rebuild it in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said, Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you?" But Jesus remained silent. And the high priest said to him, "I adjure you by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man," that's the title for Jesus Christ, "the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power," that's God in heaven, "and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has uttered blasphemy. What further witnesses do we need? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your judgment?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spit in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who is it that struck you?" They were mocking him. They were spitting on him. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, And a servant girl came up to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I don't know what you mean." Have you ever done something like that? Yes, Peter is as human. Some people like calling him Saint Peter. He is as human as you and me. He is acting like a coward at this moment. I don't know what you're talking about. And when he went out to the entrance, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath. "I don't know the man. Who is he after all?" After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you too are one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to invoke a curse on himself and to swear, "I do not know the man." And immediately the rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the saying of Jesus, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. When the morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate, the governor. That's an amazing. Tomorrow we will read the story of what happens at the court of the Pilate. Pilate was the Roman governor. This is early morning again. This is possibly 6 a.m. And Peter and Jesus is being taken by the temple authorities, Jewish religious court, and to be handed over to the political court, the Pilate, the governor. And there must be some kind of a prior communication, so that they had reasons to take Jesus to the Roman governor, and Roman governor had reasons to entertain this urgent call to pass a judgment of a death penalty on this man called Jesus. This is amazing. And we also saw in the story Peter, his close disciple, the one who made a promise, "I will never deny you, though I will die with you." And at this vulnerable moment, he says, "I don't know the man." "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" And as a closing thought, I have known a lot of people who like Jesus, who have even experienced something amazing about Jesus being alive. Sometimes Jesus has appeared in people's dreams. They have prayed a secret prayer and he has healed them and things have happened. But then they take that convenient posture. Who is this man? I don't know. And following Jesus takes a price. Making that confession involves a price. But it's worth it all. If you are seeking the truth, then it's worth it all. The man who gave his life for us, for our sins, he calls us, "Come to me, confess me, believe in me." We can be like that. Have a great day. Tomorrow we'll continue the story. God bless you.